legislative direction to them was to look at, should we have a mandate on providing information on energy efficiency to consumers at real estate transactions at point of sale. That was the original charge. So this really had a focus on the real estate transaction audits that supported that. And one of the things she said is if they did that, if they provided efficiency audits that focused actions on improving energy efficiency, then what we could get, and those audits achieved or resulted in savings of 20% per home on average, and in many homes there's a much higher potential than that. Then over 7 years, the potential for Texas was over $13 billion, pardon me, almost $14 billion. What they said was that education, consumer education, and the use of some sort of comparative rating was really had particular value in stimulating that kind of activity. And one of the things that I want to sort of leave you with is in terms of the idea of a rating. I work for Texas Home Energy Rating Organization. Obviously, we are an association of home energy raters that participate in the ResNet, the Residential Energy Services Network, national standards for the mortgage industry, and the notion that there are standards that can be applied and are available to you to make comparisons, and that they can be provided by an independent third party, and that there is some kind of quality assurance effort that oversees that and maintains a higher probability that information you're getting is reliable is very important to the overall effort. Now, the ResNet standards, which used to be for rating, they were originally created for existing home performance. They transitioned over the last 20 years, mostly the last 10 years, to focus on new construction, because that's where most of the construction activity has been, and that's where, to be honest, that's where the emphasis of the Energy Star program was, and a lot of raters basically got into the business to participate in certifying homes for Energy Star. But several years ago, we initiated an effort with ResNet to try to revamp the focus on existing homes, or recover the emphasis on existing home. And last year, May of 2008, ResNet published a standard on audits of existing homes, and they said basically that there are two levels of audit information that they recognized and that their members ought to participate in, and they set standards for delivering. A survey covered a variety of levels of advice and activity, which produces general guidance. It was not supposed to produce detailed scopes of work or detailed cost estimates, for that matter. And there are a variety of levels to deliver that. There are tools online from the EPA and from the Department of Energy to do online surveys and input a few features of your house and maybe a few inputs from your energy bill. In some cases, you can load 12 months of your energy bills. But you can enter information online, and you're going to get a report back that will say, in your case, it is highly likely that you will have in a house of this age, with equipment of this age, you're probably going to have these kinds of opportunities for savings. And if they're looking at your utility bills, they'll say, you're way out of whack. You're either much more efficient than your neighbors, or your usage seems very high, and so look in these places for potential for savings. Yes, sir.
So you're using the same software to analyze for the HERS rating as you are for the audits, or is there a separate software?
We are using ResNet accredited software. REMWay, or Energy Gauge, is what we recommend and what our own standard is based on. Let me come back to that in a second, but yes. So online surveys, in-home surveys, is when someone actually comes to your house and does a visual assessment of some kind, and probably does an interview and to find out about where you set your thermostat, what rooms you use the most, that sort of stuff. Or in a diagnostic survey is a level where there's still a limit on the kind of advice that they're giving, but they do go ahead and do some performance testing. They may use the blower door, they may use the duct blaster, they may do other tests that they think are needed, but they still are not doing a detailed analysis or providing detailed recommendations. The Comprehensive Home Energy Audit says you have to complete a variety of these steps, and you have to complete an analysis with accredited software, and you have to, and the accredited software that we use mostly is REMRate, and our standard assumes that. And you have to produce a scope of work. And the scope of work is an extension beyond what raters normally do. The two things about a comprehensive audit that are distinct from a rater's normal work is one, that it ends up with a scope of work recommending that these things be accomplished, and providing sufficient, not a detailed specification, but a sufficient specification that a person can turn around and get alternate bids to get the work done. The other thing that is not normally included in the rater's work and the test that the rater does is combustion safety testing, which is, again, it's part of the ResNet standard and it's part of our standard as well. So why a comprehensive audit? Well, a key idea that homeowners should walk away with is it's not just your HVAC system or just your lighting or any one thing or just your windows that is the cause of a high energy bill or an energy related problem. Houses are a system, and energy use and energy management needs to be thought of in system terms. The occupants, the behaviors of the occupants, the purchasing choices that they make, the way you operate your doors and windows, the way you operate your programmable thermostat or not, the way you operate your, where you set your, I'll show you a horrible picture someplace in here about, people who set their thermostat at 62 degrees in a hot, humid climate and what the result of that is. There's a lot of choices that you make, and choices that you make in individual appliances can also make a big difference in your overall use. The building envelope is only one part of the problem. It's a huge part, but it is not, focusing on the building alone does not give us a comprehensive picture of what we need, and nor does focusing on equipment or equipment replacement alone enough of an answer. You need to look at how these systems interact with each other, or subsystems interact with each other, to define your overall pattern of energy use. And a comprehensive look at that should give you an understanding of easy ways to save energy and money, that based on your behavioral choices. Some that may be short-term when you have purchase choices to help you point toward the right ones that will make a big difference for you. So low-cost and no-cost changes. If some of those choices that you have, some of the measures that you may take are more expensive, what are the most cost-effective of those, and how should you be thinking about those and earning a payback on them? What is a sequence of improvements? It might be a really good idea for you to put, for instance, additional, your ceiling is really hot. If you put additional insulation in the ceiling, it will prevent additional heat from coming into the house. But if you do that and put that insulation on top of ducts that need to be sealed or repaired or replaced, then you've created a problem in solving your long-term problem, and you may have created some new problems. So a comprehensive look looks at the sequence of when your choices may make the most sense. And also points you at resources to help you follow up, because the point of an audit should be taking action to achieve energy efficiency. In terms of what to expect, there's a couple of starting pieces of advice that I would give you, and the first one is get a proposal. And that proposal ought to, I say this because a lot of the opportunities that people have for audits are free audits that are basically sales calls, and and there's enough return on those sales calls that many companies can afford to give free audits, which is getting somebody inside your home. And what we're trying to contrast that to is in the audits and surveys for which ResNet has a standard is genuinely offering some expert advice and genuinely trying to identify a broader range of opportunities for you, not just whatever I sell. So you should get an estimated cost for the audit work itself. Somebody might be willing to do it for free. Explanation of the type of audit, how much information you're going to get, and what is it, what problems is it going to address in particular, what information are you going to receive, and in what format are you going to get that, and how are you going to receive that information, what kind of report are you going to get. One of the things that we require and that ResNet requires is a conflict of interest disclosure, so that anybody performing an audit tells you up front, if they have a company that also does air conditioning or also does windows or also does insulation, they need to tell you that up front. So if they recommend that, you can take that with a grain of salt or not. If they, if they are treating you honestly, then you may still want to use